Good evening, everyone. Brought to you live from the Remax Center, home of the St. John's Curling Club. I'm Cathy Cunningham, and my friend Laura Strong is joining us tonight again. We're going to give you the play-by-play for the Team McNeil Lamswood versus Team Perry game on Sheet 3 here at the Curling Club. There is lots going on in this tournament right now, and there are, right at this moment, 4 teams tied at 2-0. They're all playing this evening. And each one of them has the opportunity to go to 3-0 and probably work towards a playoff berth. The way it's going to work is there's 3 teams from each of the men's pools. There are 2 men's pools. 3 of those teams will go into the playoffs. The winner of the pool will advance right to the semifinal, and the other 2 teams will play off in the quarterfinals, with the winner playing the winners of those quarterfinals playing those semifinal berths. We'll eventually get to a men's and a women's final at about 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. But until then, we're going to bring you the coverage of tonight's game and hope you enjoy yourselves. So kick back, relax, pour yourself a Friday night cocktail, and join Laura and I for some interesting conversation. We're hoping that we won't make too many mistakes, but we're not paid to do this job, so you can't criticize.
Well said, Cathy.
There you go.
So we've got a corner guard up already, which seems a bit aggressive for the first end, but Harry's leads first rock came quite deep, so no harm in putting up the corner because a rock behind the tee really isn't a threat.
No, I would agree. I think this is advantage McNeil Lamswood, and you know he's hitting this. I mean, I might be actually considering just drawing down to it and saying to Team Perry, okay, here you go, see what you do with that. I might also, because these are deep, consider going around that corner guard that you just put up. Like we talked about it already this afternoon, Laura. If you're going to put up a corner guard, you may as well use it. But the guys are, this is the first end, so let's say there's risk, but there's also some caution, and maybe that's where their heads are.
Yeah, and those of us that tuned in, we watched the Tipple versus. Yep, that game.
That game, yep. Tipple versus.
Don't know why I'm drawing a blank here because we
Smith,
just.
It was Greg Smith.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, of course. A friend. Tipple versus Smith game, and I just spoke with Spencer Tipple actually about how a number of draws were missed in that game, and we thought the ice was getting quite heavy, and he said it was actually lightning speed, so they were having trouble pulling back and adjusting to some of the draws were actually 16 hog to hog. So when you're not out there, you don't realize that. But so my point is, I guess you're hesitant to throw the draw game in the first end because it isn't what doesn't come super naturally yet.
No, and I mean it does explain it though, Laura, because like, when it's going faster than you're expecting, you get the yips, I guess is what they call them. I think that's what they call them. So you tend to be a little bit heavy on a few, and then in order to find the right weight, you got to be throwing it a bit short almost. The next time when you can't find it and you're throwing it deep, then you have no choice but to just throw one short and try and find something in the middle.
Exactly. But we saw when you throw it short, it curls like crazy.
It certainly did.
It's a nice challenge.
I think it's great that the ice is fast. I like it fast. I always did. But I also struggled very much when it got a little bit faster than, we used to call it 27 seconds. But we always measured from hog line to stop. So that was lightning fast for us. And I didn't like 27. My favorite speed when we played was around 24 or 25.
I was trying to
24.
Same time as you.
24 and a half, 25 I liked.
Yeah. And if you're wondering what we mean by 24, 25, basically hog to hog is, if it's hog to hog is 14, then you add 10 seconds for it to stop. Now, if you're pretty keen, you can realize, and by keen I don't mean fast, but if you're pretty clever, you'll actually time it from the far hog to stop, because sometimes that changes. And it'll give you a little heads up that, okay, hog to hog, we're getting a pretty typical time, but it's actually really, really digging in from the hog line inward if it's not that perfect add of 10 seconds.
Well, that's true. And we also talk about the slide path and how rocks tend to die in the slide path toward the end of the game. So if you're not timing it until the rock is stopped, then you're missing out on the fact that it's hitting that slide path and it's grinding to a halt. So even though you might only need 14 seconds from hog to hog, in order, when it starts to get a little slow in the head toward the end of the game, you almost need 13 seconds from hog to hog to allow for the extra time that you need at the end of the sheet. So, it's tough, but that's why we timed from hog to stop, because I felt like it was a truer value. A lot of people do hog to hog. We might be splitting hairs, but at the end of the day, it's what your team prefers.
And then, of course, there's the all too popular split times, which are from the backline to the hog line, and then you're getting into 2 seconds and change. And I've never really been a fan of it. I said I've tried to do it over and over again. I get a different time every time. So
yes,
my preference is to have one person using the watch and one person using an eyeball, because then you can pick up on whether the thrower's done a little tug at the end or giving it a little extra.
Right.
Whereas if you're just looking at the watch, you can't see those things.
I absolutely agree. And those with a very firm, very aggressive release will have a split time that is really hard to read. You'll get the same split time as someone who has a soft release, and the rock will go 10 feet longer. So you really can't use another team's split times. And then your own team members, unless they throw exactly the same, will always have a different split time for every shot that they throw. And then you're trying to negotiate, well, who threw it? Which split time was that? Was that Heather's? Was it Cathy's? Was it Laura's? Was it Peg's? That kind of way. Whose was it? And what does that mean to everybody else? And so that's why I never liked the split time. I just felt like there was too many variables involved in it. And I felt like the hog to stop timing mechanism was the best value for what we were trying to accomplish out there.
Agreed. Cathy, you mentioned to pour up your favorite cocktail, and we're getting a text in from the audience who would like to know what Cathy Cunningham's favorite cocktail of choice is.
So I'd have to say everyone knows me well enough that I'm a white wine drinker, so I really do enjoy a nice Pinot Grigio or a Sauvignon Blanc. But last year, we were traveling with our kids for Jen's wedding. We ended up at a gin distillery.
Really?
And they had fall, summer, spring, and winter gins. And it was summer, so we had a summer gin with lemonade, homemade lemonade, and strawberries. And it was a nice drink. So there you go. There's my favorite cocktail.
Now.
Gin and lemonade.
Who knew? You can teach an old dog.
You can teach an old dog new tricks. And you're going to be fired for sauciness.
So this has turned into a bit of a wide open end here, which is what both skips want, I would imagine. Again, they're trying to get a feel for what the ice is doing. I believe they scraped the ice in between.
They did.
Okay, so when they do a scrape, of course, it obviously makes slight changes to the ice. You might see a change in weights and the amount of curl, especially if the ice makers are paying attention, and I'm sure they are, and saying, oh, I don't really like what it was doing there, so I'm going to manipulate things so it does something different.
Yeah, and I think they work pretty hard. We've talked about this a couple of times today, Laura, but Harold and his team, they work pretty hard, and they have a high level of pride in the quality of the ice that we get here at the curling club. And we do listen to the broadcasts when the Briar and whatnot is on, and when we listen to them, and sometimes the Atlantic Canadian group gets grouped together and they talk about the lack of quality of the ice in Atlantic Canada, and I get a little annoyed with it, and I'll admit that, and someday I might tell them that, but either way, I feel as though the quality of the ice that we have here at our club is exceptional. It's running fast. It's not running slow like they say in Atlantic Canada. It has a lot of curl, and they do they have a reason to be really proud of what we have here. So I just want to shout out to Harold and his group and just tell him that, like, keep on going, guys, and don't let it bother you when we get lumped together with other people, because this is really quality curling that we get here at our club, and it has been for a long, long time. And I will say, before Harold, we had good ice too, but Harold is doing an exceptional job and has been for a long time.
Absolutely. And some of it has to do with new equipment too. There's been a lot of fundraising go on in the club, and support from members to be able to buy more top of the line scrapers and things like that. And that's made a big difference as well. And we got to keep in mind that this is the home club of Brad Guzzu and his team. So they do practice on this ice, and I think they do pretty good with it. So
yeah,
you're right, Cathy. It is
absolutely
supreme.
So still we have a wide open end here, guys. We'll just take a minute to let you know who's playing who out there. So on sheet 1, we have Team Tipple, who's currently sitting at 0-2, who's playing Team Skanes, who's one of those teams that is currently at 2-0. So Team Trent Skanes will want to do their best to win that game and stay at the top of the leaderboard. And then on sheet 2, we have Alex Smith, who's at 0-2, and he's playing Greg Smith, who's at 1-1. Greg is going to be looking for his second win, I'm sure. He'd like to stay as close as he can to the top leaders. Team Perry, Team McNeil, Lamswood is the game we're watching right now, and Team Perry is sitting at 1-1, and McNeil, Lamswood is one of those teams also sitting at 2-0, so they'll be looking to improve their record to 3-0 and enhance their chances of getting into the finals on Sunday. On sheet 4, we have Hancock playing Simmons, and Hancock currently sits at 0-2, and Simmons is sitting at 2-0. Another one of those teams that wants to stay where they are. Sheet 5 is Team Thomas from the Port Basque Club and Team Turpin from our club. Thomas is sitting at 1-1, and Turpin is sitting as 0-2. And then lastly, on sheet 6, we have Team Pettigrew is currently sitting at 1-1, playing Team Nathan Young at 2-0, and Nathan and team will be looking to improve their record to 3-0, and Pettigrew and team will be looking to go to 2-1 and stay close to the leaders as they can. So that's a summary of the games that we'll be giving you some updates on as we go by. And we're just starting off in end number 2. We blanked the first, so...
Yeah, and it was a bit of a gift, Cathy, because it was just a throw through for the blank, so it didn't have to throw any hit or anything.
Right.
And we've talked about before how it's a gift anytime you get to put the broom down and sort of get a read. You bank that in your head for when you might have to play a more important shot in that area.
Exactly.
And so Perry's called their first rock into the house, which again is pretty typical first couple of ends. McNeil Lamswood tried to put up a corner guard, but it did slip in.
The joys of the corner guard. So Team Perry will just hit this now because it is biting and they're allowed to.
Of course, they wouldn't be allowed to had it not slipped in. The 5 rock rule is in play, which means if there's any of the 5 rocks that are outside the rings, so in front of the rings, cannot be touched until the 6th rock. But because it did slip in, it's an easy call. Now that yellow rock is outside the rings, again, it can't be touched until the 6th rock. Now, if it's your own color, you can take it out.
You can, but you can look at and see what Ryan is doing. He's asking his team, should we not hit this and just put up a second corner guard here and play a little bit more aggressively? You know, they've changed them. They've decided that they're not ready to play that aggressively. So the guard will still be there unless the other team removes it. But I kind of like the idea of putting up that second guard. Mm-hmm. And, just saying, it sends a message to Team Tipple to Team Perry that if you're not going to make the shot, you better be careful. And I don't mind sending that message to the other team. You make a mistake and we're going to try and take every advantage. And I think by putting up a second corner guard, he would have sent that message loud and clear. This is a more relaxed, sort of conservative way to play, which is fine if that's what you want to do. But I think if you're at 2-0, then you didn't get there by being, sort of, I guess, defensive. You got there by being a little bit more offensive, and I think that offense paid off so far. So why change?
Yeah, that's definitely a school of thought. I would agree with you, especially where it's earlier in the game. You might not be so aggressive later in the game, but take a chance. And if you happen to get, forced to one, then so be it.
Well, exactly, Laura, because it is still quite early in the game, and it's not going to kill you if you get forced to one. But anyway, we can't get into the players' heads. I mean, we're guessing and surmising, and I guess sharing with the viewing audience that these are the things that could be running through
exactly
the guys' heads, and we don't really know.
Because to be perfectly honest, I would have hit this rock.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
The reason I would hit it is because it's pretty well perfect. It's top 4, very dangerous rock. It really shrinks your scoring zone. Now, if it had been back 8,
yes,
or top 8 or something like that, then it's not as threatening to me. I still have, pretty good area to draw to if I have to. But because it was so perfect, I would eliminate it.
So you can see Team Perry is struggling to say, what do we do now? We've got this corner guard we don't want. Do we go around it? I like the idea that they didn't. I don't think there's anything to be gained by going around your own corner guard when you haven't got last rock, except to set it up so that the other team can freeze your rock. So I like that they've changed their mind and they're going open. I think another option that they could have done was a tight center guard. I think the other team will just peel it now because we're at that point in the game, but I don't mind the call. It's a little more offensive than this. This is a we're willing to let you blank another end kind of a call.
That's right. And you're right. Both are fine.
Nothing
in the
wrong.
Second end, we've seen a number of couple flashes really this weekend, and certainly rollouts. So it does, typically you wouldn't give somebody just an open rock to hit. But I don't mind where it's so early in the game. You might get a mistake.
Absolutely. Like this. Not quite.
Skip sweeping has gotten better. Used to be quite terrible back in your day, Cathy.
All right, that's 2. This surprises me. Although I guess we're late. We're getting halfway through the end here, but I think that this is an opportunity for Ryan to be a little bit more aggressive. This rock is so far back. The corner guard is still sitting there waiting to be used. It's not his, I realize, but still there. I might have considered going around it. He doesn't like it, obviously, and they're content to play this shot, but now they've rolled out, so
100%. I agree with you, Cathy. I would not be hitting that rock.
I never liked hitting the rocks that are in the back of the house. It's too precise.
Yeah. Again, the only argument I can see is just to get a read on the ice, which, again, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can't come up with any other reason why they'd do this other than to keep it close. When we played my very first Scotties, we actually ended up beating Colleen Jones, and this was at the top of her game. And she was known for a defensive game. She also had won 4 Scotties at the time. And we just wanted to keep it close. So she didn't realize how good we were at hitting, and quite frankly, how terrible we were at everything else. So she went up and down the sheet with us, hit. And as it happened, it was a very tight game, and we made the hit for the win. But I think the score was like 3-2 in a 10-end game. Very low scoring game. And had she put pressure on us and played a bit more of an offensive game, we probably would have had handshakes, before the game, well before the game was over. So there is an argument, especially if I have no idea about how these two teams match up, but if you feel like, there's an argument that the other team is a bit more, a little better at the aggressive game, then you want to keep it close, and then anything can happen if it's kept tight till the end.
I agree with you. I just feel like the game has evolved to a place where the rules that they've made with the free guard zone and the center line and all of that is designed so that there are rocks in play. And when we play without rocks in play, it seems to me like a waste of an end. In the meantime, if you get there because someone might have missed, then that cannot be helped.
Yeah.
So, fair enough. And that's going to happen in many games. No matter how good or bad you are, it's going to happen. So this is another wide open end, though, for sure. And a little bit of cat and mouse here.
Yeah.
Should we take advantage of the corner guard? No, probably not. So we'll see what happens in the next end and just let this one play out.
And you're right, Cathy. It did all of a sudden become defensive the minute that McNeil Lamswood's corner guard slipped into the house. They did try and put up a guard. It slipped in, and then it was kind of no choice but to hit unless you wanted to be super aggressive.
So a quick look at all the other games, Laura, and it's just either no score or 1-0. So there's not a lot to report in some of those. We will give you the official scores after the second end, obviously, but right now there's nothing happening too drastic to anybody. In early days, lots of points left, lots of ends left. This is hanging a little bit.
Yeah.
Now Ryan has 2 rocks to Perry's 1. We'll see what he does with this. So he's looking at this corner guard now. See if he can get a skip's deuce. For those watching that don't know the term, it's basically self-explanatory. It's that there aren't either any rocks in play or no opportunity to get to until the skip makes his first one, and then the other skip doesn't make his last one an opportunity for a skip's deuce.
Or there's a ton of rocks in play, and the skips bail you out and somehow
get 2
with their 2 shots end up getting 2.
It usually is a situation where the team without hammer misses their last rock, and it might not necessarily have looked like the team with hammer was ever going to score, and then out of nowhere they get 2 points because of one missed shot.
Yeah.
And the best way to get a skip's deuce is obviously to put a little bit more pressure on the team that doesn't have last rock, and that's what Ryan is trying to do here. Is trying to bury a piece of this rock behind this yellow one and force Team Perry to make something a little bit harder than the open shots that they've been throwing throughout this end.
That's pretty perfect shot, really. So he's got 2 choices to make. Does he corner freeze here, or does he throw the run back?
Yeah, I guess he's looking at it pretty hard, isn't he? I don't think it's buried.
Okay. It did to me, but now
But it's deep. So,
Yeah.
He certainly could freeze. He seems the ice he's taking is he's looking at a tap, maybe?
Definitely, yeah. So in our game earlier, this really moved this spot here. So
Inside, the inside out shot, it did, didn't it?
You'd have no
Team
chance
Tipple
of
got
making
caught, and it overcurled so much that if that happens here at this point, he's going to hit that guard.
Yeah,
he's going to hit it. Quite a lot of it too. We don't know what weight he's throwing, so
it's kind of like a normal weight coming down. not soft weight.
They got to go, though. Oh,
Yeah.
what a shot.
Good sweep.
Great shot.
It's good sweeping and great anticipation too, to make the call. Sometimes when it's curling like that, you're afraid to make the call before you think you should. It's almost like you have to make the call before you're even on the rock. And Nick did a great job of that. They all wear baseball caps and they're all wearing hoodies. It's very difficult on me at 9:30 p.m.
Yeah, and we've been at this all day, so it's not getting any easier, is it? So another throw through this end. We'll be following along in the third end now very shortly. We'll be right back. Beginning of end 3, you can see that Team Perry has successfully placed their center guard. So Team Ryan McNeil Lamswood will come around, or at least attempt to come around. We should see some rocks in play this end, I think, Laura.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised, Cathy, that for their blank in the last end, McNeil Lamswood threw their throw through in exactly the same spot. So again, really no intel gained there. You would think you put the broom somewhere else so you could kind of bank a different place. And again, it might be a lack of experience there. I really can't come up with any other reason why you would throw it in exactly the same spot, to be honest.
No, I think that over time, you learn to take advantage of that opportunity. And a lot of teams, I remember as a younger curler, we would just chuck it and didn't care where it went. And as you learn the value of seeing something be thrown through the ice, we actually threw different weights as well. We didn't always throw it hard. We threw, just through the rings sometimes hack weight to see what it would do in a certain place, sometimes hit weight, sometimes peel weight. There's lots to be gained by taking advantage of the fact that you get to throw something for free at a broom.
Yeah. We talk about all these different weights, and people have different ways of communicating that. You'll see some people, karate chop their waist, and that might mean normal or control weight. You'll see some people cross their arm over their shoulder, and that might mean normal or control. You'll often see people tap their ankle, and that usually means hack. You'll see some people hold their broom out to the side, like as if there was a board to the side for boards, or you'll see some people turn around and kind of throw their broom back toward the boards to ask for board weight. And essentially all these weights mean is I'd like to see the rock, if it's not manipulated or swept in any way, nobody touched it. I'd like to see the rock get to that specific place. So if you're asking for hack weight, you'd like to see the rock just kind of mosey on toward the hack, or board weight, same sort of thing.
Yep, exactly. And some teams use times. They'll say throw a 10, which is basically it will take 10 seconds to get from one hog line to the next hog line. Throw a 5, which is a very fast rock to get from one hog line to the other hog line. And some teams use that, and some teams use deliberately vague references so as not to give any information to the other team.
Yeah. Cathy, I'd just like to know how many 5s you've thrown over your...
I think none.
That number 3 for me?
That's number 3, Laura, yes. Number 3, you saucy thing, you. No, that wasn't my forte, as we all know. Just a little tick there. That's unfortunate, although it would have been very deep if it hadn't.
Yeah.
So it may have saved the rock and kept it in play. It's shot rock, so Ryan's got to deal with it. He could choose to go around. He does have last rock. This rock is probably not going to be of any consequence later on in the end. But they're choosing to hit it, and that, I think, it'll definitely bring back a 2-pointer back into play. The top yellow one is out counting the blue rock that's at the 4 o'clock area of the ring. So it's still going to only give Ryan an opportunity to lie 2 at this point. But I think he could have frozen this. He could have come around the center, because you can be guaranteed that's what Team Perry is going to do.
Yeah, and I asked both teams what they consider their type of play, whether it's aggressive, defensive. Of course, everybody's going to say balanced attack, but like a Jennifer Jones, for example, would definitely be an aggressive team. Rachel Homan changed a little bit now that Fleury is the caller of the game, but you would call her a defensive team. They both kind of said that they're balanced attack, but Team McNeil Lamswood did say they're a little bit more aggressive. So we'll see how that plays out throughout the rest of the game.
I haven't seen a whole lot of aggressiveness at this point.
No.
And maybe they're just not quite comfortable out there at this juncture. But fortunately for Team Perry, they've made it a little bit easier now for Team McNeil Lamswood. They're going to have an opportunity to draw in here and lie too. There's a lot of rocks in play, and I think if you don't go around the middle, the other team is going to try. So he's got 2 choices. The aggressive play would be around the middle. The defensive play would be to peel the front guards and keep it open and try and score your 2 that way. But they've elected to throw the draw, which does show their desire to be a little aggressive here, and I think this is a good call.
So Aaron Feldham did not lie to me when he said they were on the aggressive side.
Yep.
Great group of guys, by the way. When I spoke with both teams, they a lot of laughs and pretty laid back, and they're going to be great up and coming representatives for Newfoundland.
I think the teams are having a little bit of trouble trying to find that 4-foot weight and coming around with the edge of 8 ice. Both teams have come up light now, so Ryan's he's allowing Team Perry back into this game. Unfortunately, you can't do much about it when someone misses, but this is really advantage Team Perry now, because they're going to get to throw this shot again. It is a new player throwing this shot, but it's still the same team. So they've got feedback for Nick, so that he can, he should have a good chance at making this shot. A lot of sweeping going on here, Laura.
Yeah.
Pretty nice weight, though. I think he's got a good-looking shot coming in here.
And you saw Perry stick his right hand up, almost and point to the right, almost saying that this is out there. This is not going to bury. And now you look at it, and it's fully
buried. That was a beautiful shot. It was swept really well right from the start, almost out of his hand. Boys knew it had to go, and they did, and they did a wonderful job. Now Ryan is finding himself in a lot of trouble here. There's many guards up front, and Team Perry's buried to the top four. They can't move it far enough to get shot rock without getting rid of the top rocks. So now at thirds rocks, they're starting to peel.
Yeah, and there's no good run back because that top freeze there, it looks like, I mean, it's perfect. If there weren't any guards in play, you would just easily hit the yellow blue. But these guards are just lined up that there's no straight run back. Have to double peel. And this is going to be a single peel.
Yeah. So these staggered guards up front are really to the advantage of Team Perry. It's not exactly necessary for him to put up another guard. He could come in again, but he's electing to put up a guard. It's not a wrong call. It might be a bit conservative, but it is not a wrong call. A very aggressive move would be to freeze your own on the top four.
Yeah, especially where they just played it. Little surprised because they know exactly the weight. They know the ice to come in again.
Yeah, and it's Nick throwing.
And you are just trying to steal the one. So you've got your one there. You don't have to get greedy, and you just keep lobbing up guards there. You've got a perfect rock behind the guards. You don't need to promote it. You don't need to sit on it. So I do think they've made the right call here. The other reason you'll see a lot of signals, as I said, tapping your ankle for hack weight and things like that, and what they're doing right now, you'll see, the broom going back and forth. What do you like? McNeil, Lamswood, not necessarily using a lot of words. You'll see him flailing the broom. We could do this. We could do that. Is just the loudness out there. I mean, there are only 5 sheets in action, and it's a curling club. But if you're in a stadium with all of that noise and people yelling at the same time, it's really important to have your arm signals down pat. Again, Cathy, Perry's in just a perfect situation. Really, it's so good.
Yeah,
they're kind of trying to decide, well, how do we make this better?
It is good, and that is sometimes a real dilemma. The last thing you want to do is try and attempt to come around, leave it open, and leave it double, so that all of a sudden you give back the advantage to Team McNeil Lamswood. But this is such an ideal situation for Team Perry. I really feel like I don't see putting a guard as being a good use of this rock. This is an opportunity for them to lie to, and I think I would be tempted to take it.
Now, can he hit that sort of 2 guard, I guess the nearer guard? Does he have enough room to hit that back on the yellow-blue? That's the only thing. I think that might be why they're looking at putting
maybe
one.
Difficult
it's hard
to
to
say.
tell from here.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite look like he's got enough, right?
He might. It's only for one though.
Yeah.
And there's still 4 rocks to come, but I don't see that run back being. Also, I don't know that that's a good use of the McNeil Lamswood last 2 rocks. I think he's still got to try and peel the front.
Yeah. I always found it funny when the score is tied. When you don't have hammer, you really want to steal and get that 1 point. And when you do have hammer, you're really annoyed if you get that 1 point.
I know.
It's still just 1 point.
It is. No matter what. Yeah.
Both should sort of be upset that they got 1 point, but there's something about the momentum when you actually stole the point versus were forced to the point.
Forced to take it, exactly.
And that's how I would open games when the skip I was playing with would be frustrated that they stole on us. We had hammer and they stole, and I would say, let's just pretend they had hammer and we forced them to one.
Yeah, there you go. It's not a bad way to go. So unfortunately, fortunately, it didn't end up exactly where Simon was looking to put it, but it's a good shot. He's taken away that run back, I think.
Yes.
So now Ryan doesn't really have a lot of choice but to either peel or he can try and put this first rock in a position to maybe make something with his second. Of course, there is the obstacle of the last parry stone being in the way, and he will have another shot. So wherever Ryan goes, Simon has the ability to follow him or guard that or try and take advantage again by drawing in around everything. So Ryan is in a bit of trouble here. He may end up giving up a steal just because there's not a lot of rocks left for him to do anything else. So he's going to try and freeze or at least put his shooter now in a position where he might have an opportunity to do something with it on his next shot. Not much he can do to actually be lying one after this. I don't see any shot. A miracle shot from above is about all he's got. And he's not playing that, so there's no draw here for him to lie one. This is just a setup shot for his next one.
Yeah. And his team has really left him with nothing because even with this setup shot, if he bounces off, then there's a chance for Perry to flop in off of McNeil Lamswood's shot and then end up two buried.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he has to try something, but there's not a lot of room for error for him here either.
No, I really feel like trying to jiggle something up front might not have been a bad idea for him to give himself maybe two options for his last rock. But right now, playing this shot is not going to give him, I mean, even if it is made perfectly, Team Perry just has an opportunity to put a cap on it and not let him have access to it. And it's not made perfectly. So now Team Perry has an opportunity to draw in and lie two.
Exactly. Okay, so they're worried about this. I don't blame them. Although I really think that the blue.
I think it'll drag. Also, there won't be much momentum.
No.
Even if Ryan could hit that blue rock hard, there's not going to be much momentum in that back blue because everything is going to the left.
And that's why they've elected not to play it.
Anyway, Simon's elected to put a guard on that so that Ryan has no other choice but to give him a point, which is not a bad call. You know, you're going to take that steal whenever you can. This is just a cap. It's going to put it above the blue rock that you see that's furthest to the right. Sorry, the furthest guard to the right. Just to cover it over so that McNeil Lamswood team cannot really make a play on it. It's just an additional protection for Team Perry's rock that's in the top four. Pretty good shot. Not much that Ryan can do with any of that, I don't think. Now, he can try and draw around to the back four. I don't know if that shot is makeable. But what it is for Ryan is a really good opportunity to find 4-foot weight as well.
Absolutely.
There's no risk here. He's not going to raise anything else in to give him two shots. It's an open draw and a practice shot. Really, really difficult shot to get one. So it's more of a take advantage of the fact that you've really got an opportunity now to get your draw weight.
Exactly. And for the sweepers to see the path too.
Absolutely.
again, it seems like a nothing shot. Well, we got nothing here, but it is just as important as any other shot because you might need this in the eighth end to win the game. And pretty good. Pretty darn good.
Yeah, he got a little rub off the front. I think it probably would have been back 8.
I did not see
yeah,
that.
just a little tiny rub off of one of those front guards. I mean, the line was coming in pretty good, but it definitely would have been deep in the back 8. So it's good. Anyway, he did what he wanted to do, which was get a feel for what the 4-foot weight is like, and so it's a steal of 1 for Team Perry, and we're going into the 4th end here. We'll be right back. So we'll run down some scores for you of the other sheets. It's tied at 1 for the Tipple versus Skanes game on sheet 1. Tied at 1. Skanes has last rock. On sheet 2, also tied at 1. Alex Smith is playing Greg Smith. Greg Smith has last rock. Our game is 1-0 for Perry, and the McNeil Lamswood team has last rock. And Hancock and Simmons there, it's 1-0 for Hancock. And right now Simmons has last rock. And on sheet 5, Team Thomas is down 2 to Team Turpin, but they do have last rock. And on sheet 6, Team Pettigrew is up 2 over Team Nathan Young, and Nathan Young's team has last rock. And here we go again. In this situation, Team Perry is going to try and steal another point, and they've been successful in placing the center guard in perfect position, so good for them.
And Team McNeil Lamswood, their lead Aaron, actually was not successful and actually hogged his rock.
Oh, dear. So, here we go with a really quick and early advantage to Team Perry to get one in behind this center guard. Some teams may have elected to throw another center guard, but this Team Perry is saying, no, I'm good with my one guard, and we'll just see what happens here. So Ryan cannot hit the guard. He can't play the tick, so he's not allowed to remove it from the center line, so he can't try that either. So he's elected to play a freeze to the yellow rock that is a little exposed on the right-hand side. I think this is a pretty standard call, Laura. Most teams would do the same thing. Some would try and get around both yellow rocks, but I don't see a lot of advantage in that.
No, and it's no surprise that Team Perry, knows the game well. I spoke with their coach, Glenn Goss, and he said that he knows how to call the game, and it's not surprising again because between all the players, they actually have a combined number of 11 national appearances.
That's a lot.
I asked for some stories and some interesting facts, and their second, Sean O'Leary, said they have an elite second. So
that's nice.
That's good to know.
Good for them. Sean's not lacking any self-confidence. That's also good to see.
It is.
Good for him. I like it. So it's a nice shot by Ryan's team to make a little bump, a small bump, but their blue rock now is perfectly buried behind the center guard, which is in a nice position. Makes it really hard for Team Perry to do anything with it other than just give it a little nudge, which is exactly what they're doing here. So this is a bit of cat and mouse going on here now, Laura. It's going to get interesting. Some really nice shots being made this end. Rocks are in really good position. Ryan is electing to come around the guard again and corner freeze the top yellow rock in the high 12-foot.
He could just soft weight hit, roll away.
He could
too.
He could. I like this call. It's a bit aggressive, but I do like it. And they said they were, a little on the aggressive side. So this is good. This is hanging a little wide, so it tells me it might be a bit heavy. Don't know if they can save it. Sure don't want to take that yellow one under.
Shot with that weight, I gotta wonder. Unless through it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I thought I saw an indication to do the corner freeze, but I could be wrong there. So you're right. It may have been a tap.
We'll never know.
No, we won't. So Simon and Team Perry are content with that situation, and they're putting up another guard on the right-hand side to try and cover the yellow rock that is slightly exposed at the top of the 4-foot. This looks like it's going to be in a good position. Might slightly over curl. As we say, it's in the way. It wasn't exactly what they were hoping for. They had hoped it would stop a little bit further outside, not touching the center line, to protect that rock in the 4-foot, but it didn't. And so now Ryan, having seen the way that Graham threw his last rock, knows the path if he wants to play this tap. And I think that's what they're electing to do.
Great opportunity for McNeil Lamswood to get his 2 if he rolls away.
It sure
However,
is.
Again, with so many rocks in the center, as we talked about, if you are trying to steal, you want to clutter up that center, and it's if Perry gets a rock around there, it's going to be awfully hard to get it out.
Yeah, and this is 2/3 buried for sure, Laura. Maybe from the hack, I'd say half. So it's a tricky little soft weight shot. It looks really good. Nicely done.
They were pretty relaxed about that. I was clenching my muscles.
Yeah, I was too. I was like, you better go. That was a good shot. Really, really nice. Does leave Perry with an opportunity to make a hit and roll back and improve his odds with a perfect roll behind the blue rock that's at the top 8. Really going to put Team McNeil Lamswood in trouble again. So this is a great chance for for Nick to put some pressure on Daniel, and he makes this hit and roll, and they're going to have to be peeling.
They got a lot of rocks to peel.
Very close. It wasn't quite what they were looking for, but it's a really nice leave. I kind of like to call this a bit of a snooker because there's no room for Ryan to try the same shot to get the inside roll. So he really hasn't got a lot of choice but to roll away. So while Nick didn't make the shot that he was hoping for, he's left himself in a good position, which I think is really, that's very good. It's very fortunate for them. And Now Ryan has to think about it. He's going to have to cut that blue one pretty close to make a roll under. I don't know if it's worth that to him. He can still lie 2 by rolling outwards.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the call.
So ideally, they want to roll this right out so that they're still second shot, but over to the A and Remax, ideally.
Exactly. As far as they can to make that roll back really hard.
Exactly. And maybe they tried a little too hard.
Yeah, a little bit too hard. They kept it in play. So they're lying number 1 and number 4, and currently Simon is lying number 2 and number 3. The key, though, is nothing has changed up front. So there's still a bit of an advantage here, being that Simon and team have the next shot to play. They can be the first ones under again. This time it's a draw, so it's easier to get it under than it is with a hit and roll. A hit and roll is a very precise shot to get the exact roll. Not that this is an easy draw, because it's not. You're trying to draw around something that's in the top 8, which is never fun. But when you make it, you feel like $1 million. So,
right.
They're going to give this a good go. And, end of the day, it doesn't have to be buried. As long as they get a piece of it under, they start to put some more pressure on team Ryan, McNeil, Lamswood again. So tough shot to the top 4, but if you can get some of it underneath that blue one, it's an excellent shot as well.
And again, they've seen this spot before. You love it when you're throwing the rock in the same spot. You don't have to
there's
guess
a confidence with the sweeping. There's a confidence with the thrower. Yeah. No one minds throwing a repeat. So it's shot rock, but it's very deep. And it's exposed on the other side, so we actually got an over curl. I'm not certain that that's of any advantage to Team Simon Perry, so I'm gonna say this is Ryan's chance to breathe a little here, and he's gonna play. Looks like a backline type of tap here, Laura, to just make sure in the end that he's lying 2. I don't think he'd be overly concerned if he ends up in the open.
No.
I actually, if I was him, would be not looking to roll deep right under that blue one, because that just sets up a freeze situation for Team Perry. So hitting this and rolling outwards wouldn't be bad.
I think it's ideal, actually.
They're going to have to go hard, though. This is curling.
Yeah, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now Perry can really stick it to him. Top button here.
He can. Yes, he can. I think he's a little weary because he doesn't have a last rock, and Ryan and team are lying number 2 and number 3. And when you don't have last rock, you don't really want to let the other team gather up too many rocks in the process. So I can't say I blame him for this, but a more aggressive call would definitely be to try and bury another one around all of that.
Look at us switching roles, Cathy. You're usually the aggressive one, and no, I agree with you. It's too dangerous to come around and group your stones together. And you can get a fantastic roll off of this as well. You can kind of do 2 at the same time.
Certainly can. Yeah, you certainly can. And if you don't, you can still lie 2. You're cutting your losses by, yes, your opponent still has an opportunity to score 2, but right now you don't want to give him an opportunity to score 3.
Yeah.
And this yellow rock at the back 4 is not in an ideal position. So if it had been a little bit closer to the center line or the T line, then he might play this differently. But I don't mind this call at all. It's cautious, but it's okay. So mission accomplished in that they are lying 2. That said, there is clearly a yellow double here. for the rolls to reverse and Ryan to lie 2.
Exactly.
He could play that. Now he's they're looking at the hit and roll to lie 1 for now.
That's one of those tricky ones. If they actually hadn't swept the roll and just sort of nosed it out there, he wouldn't have an easy double here to lie 2. But that's a lot of communication needed there, and a lot of experience to know, like, okay, if what's plan A, what's plan B, what's plan C as a sweeper. And you obviously want to try and make that roll, because if you make that roll perfectly, then you've really stuck it to them. So
Yes.
really hard to bail. And when do you bail? And just try and know.
So you can see from the overhead that the boys are talking about whether or not they can hit this yellow rock that's on the left-hand side and carm off of the blue rock that is above it as it's rolling in. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm not sure you can do that.
No.
So I'm also not sure what this call is. Is it just a roll in? Are they attempting the double? I'm not entirely sure. We're gonna have to wait and see what he throws.
This ice, I'm thinking the double. Like relative to normal weight.
It's hanging a little, so I don't know what double they're getting here. Okay.
Lucky
Get
double.
it that way. You can get it that way. Didn't and that's a great shot. I think it hung a little bit on him that he wasn't really anticipating. So he's lying his 1, and mission accomplished for Team McNeil Lamswood. I'm not sure they're out of the woods yet. Depends on what Team Perry can do with their last rock, but there are options for Team Perry to still close this out and possibly steal a point.
Huh.
So they're looking at the run back to lie
3.
3 or 4.
I don't know what that gains, though, when you don't have hammer.
It doesn't, except it puts a little pressure on McNeil Lamswood to make his draw, otherwise give up a bundle.
Yeah.
But it's not a tough draw, because the best shot that the yellow team will have is top 12.
Exactly. And if this is a long run back, and if you miss this, then
it is, yeah. Then it's a
McNeil
draw for
Lamps
2.
yeah.
I think he could tap his own. This rock over on the right hand side, I think that could be easily tapped to lie 1 behind cover.
Yeah.
Well, not easily, but I think it's an easier shot than this long double.
Yeah. Yeah, I disagree with that call.
Yeah, I think he could have put more pressure on him, but just drawing for 1.
Yeah.
Drawing to lie 1 would have been a better call, I think. You could tap your own, or you could draw around the other side and put a little more pressure on him. Make him make a shot for 2 instead of a free draw.
Exactly.
Or an open draw. Nothing's free, I guess, but an open draw for 2 is... And there's no pressure right now either on Ryan, because he's already lying 1.
Yeah, and Perry had pressure on him full end, really.
He did, and unfortunately, I'm in agreement. I don't think that the last shot, that call was the right one.
I don't really think there were many misses either. It was, as far as I can think back, it was more a strategy situation in that end.
And I guess the thing is too is with this yellow rock over here at the, I guess I should have got up. I don't know if So our apologies to our viewing audience. We did lose the feed there for a second, and it was a successful draw by Ryan McNeil Lamswood. So he is up 2-1 now over Team Perry, and Team Perry will take last rock going into the fifth end.
We might see the no tick 5 rock rule here, and that's exactly it. So McNeil Lamswood, his lead, Aaron threw the absolute perfect guard. It was nice and tight, so the Perry team wouldn't want to go around it, and it was touching the center line. And that's a newer rule where any rock outside the house in that free guard zone that is actually touching the center line can't be touched. And if it is, then the thrown rock has to come out of play, and the rock that was touched gets put back where it was.
All right. So thanks for the explanation, Laura. I guess I got it wrong earlier today. I thought it could be moved as long as it wasn't moved off the line.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but they just replaced it. They outright replaced it. It didn't move off the line, so it must be not allowed to be touched at all. So you're right there.
I know this rule pretty good because I did begrudgingly play lead at the end of our season, and I touched an awful lot of the opposition's rocks. So it's ingrained in my head, and I have a little bit of PTSD when I go to sleep at night.
There you go. I think you can let that go now. This is a really nice setup for Ryan's team. It's a lovely guard and a perfect come around. So a little reverse roles here now for the first time in an end or so. Team Perry is going to be under a little pressure to make this shot, to make sure that they don't let this end get away from them. So it's really important for them to be short of the rock that's in the 4-foot, even if the line is not perfect. Last thing you want to be here is heavy. So,
and we are doing the last thing that it looks good. You can't underestimate the importance of momentum too. Perry had McNeil Lamswood on the hook there for the first few ends, and then even that last end they were in control, and then McNeil Lamswood came out with a 2, kind of out of nowhere, and I think it really has shifted the momentum.
I would agree. This Perry team is quite young, and Ryan and team, they're a little older. They're finished. Most of them are finished university. They're working. So they've been playing the game a little while longer than Simon has. But ultimately, I think it came down to a rookie call, not to be insulting because that's not what I mean. But the run back that he played was a little bit too difficult for him, and he could have put more pressure on Ryan by playing something different. Anyway, these are lessons that these kids learn when they play in spiels like that. And the reason for playing in the spiel is to learn these lessons. So hopefully they'll take that away and see the value of putting more pressure on the other skip as opposed to yourself. This is a nice shot. It is an overlap, which means that you can't use those rocks to run them in, but it does make the double peel a little easier now.
Absolutely.
So this is going to let Team Perry off the hook a little, in that they will be able to play a reasonably simple double peel. They may get a corner guard out of it to boot, and they'll still be lying number 2 behind the blue rock in the 4-foot. So they're in good shape. Good shot.
Cathy, you talked about age, saying that McNeil Lamswood are a little older. I asked their ages, and they're kind of in the 24, 23 range. But then one actually notified his I can't remember who, his teammates, that he's actually 19, and the others were kind of shocked to know that.
There you go.
So I'm not sure if they've been buying him drinks and not realizing they shouldn't have before this. But in any case, they're a young team as well.
There you go. I think that like Ryan and Daniel have been playing together for a long time. They've been, they went up through the junior ranks together, and
I
they've
think
been
they
in the
said
men's.
8 years, actually.
Is it okay? So, and they're in the men's now for a couple of years. So they're getting their feet wet here, and they've had an opportunity to play some of these bigger teams a few more times than Simon Perry has. So I think even though 23 and 24 is really young, they've still been playing a long time. 8 years is a long time, and they learn so much from teams like Gouju and some of the veterans that are playing here, and the coaching in Newfoundland is really good.
Yeah.
So we've got some excellent coaches. So I think Team Simon Perry will come along quite quickly, I'm sure. But I do believe, from an experience perspective, that Ryan has a little bit of the upper hand here today. It's a nice call, though. Nice shot. Tried to bury a little bit of it.
And the run back in the last end wasn't a terrible call.
No.
Again, even if they made it, I'm not sure it was ideal, but it's a little bit probably of the we think we can make everything, which is a good way to be. And I think even Gouju back in 06 had that philosophy, and gosh, they almost could. But I think we'll all agree that when Russ Howard came into that team and called the game, he sort of reeled in the strategy of making the more probable call, and
Yes.
and sort of again reeled in that youth of such great players and such a great team, and so everybody when they're younger falls victim to that, and you got to love the confidence that they have, but you also need somebody who can kind of
a little more experienced maybe is the way to say it. A little less toward the pretty shot and more toward the practical shot. Yeah.
I think everyone agrees that was Brad's one weakness.
Yes.
the one and only was early on was that
Yeah.
he might call the tougher shots all the time.
So Ryan doesn't like the look of having two yellow rocks in the rings when he doesn't have last rock, and I can't say I blame him, because this is a bit of a role reversal. The same thing happened to Team Perry last end. They chose to play the hit and let go of some of the pressure that they were putting on Team Ryan McNeil Lamswood, and so now Ryan is doing the same thing. He's saying, I could play a more aggressive call, but I don't have last rock. I don't want too many yellow rocks in play.
Yeah. Talking about Brad, I asked Ryan and his team who they look up to, who they've looked up to, and of course they did say Brad, and they said, but not just Brad himself, obviously the whole team, just what they've done and how they each represent their roles. They've studied them and continue to look up to them, as do most curlers in Newfoundland.
I would say, I think we can say with some conviction that most curlers in Canada would have an awful lot of respect for that team. They've been playing together for a long time. Him and Mark, they've had so much success spread out over such a long period of time now as well. And they're still at the top of their game, which is, remarkable when you consider what they've been through and what they've put their bodies through in the last 20 years, almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, it's over 20 years for Brad and Mark. They've been together since juniors, which was, I think they won the juniors in 2001. So that's 22 years ago.
Yeah. Right. And you're right, Cathy. It's definitely on a national level. I think that the difference between Newfoundland and the rest of the world, or Canada, is we get to say they're from here.
Yeah, that's right. We do.
But no, most people in my circles, in and out of curling, it's hard to argue that they're not the Brad isn't the GOAT.
Yeah, I kind of agree. And we might be biased, but we're allowed to be. So we've got two yellow rocks in play again. And I don't think Ryan is happy with that. So he's going to try and do something with this rock on the top 4 foot.
And the guard.
Yeah, so his His way of dealing with it was to try and guard his lonely rock in the 4-foot, which, I can't say I blame him, because removing the yellow rock ahead of it is not an easy shot either. It would have been a tap kind of a shot. I might have tried to play a corner freeze on it as opposed to guard, and maybe that was the call. I'm not sure, but either way, that guard definitely overcurled.
Yeah.
So now Team Perry has an opportunity to do something with their own to promote it a little bit. The angle isn't perfect by any stretch, but I think they've got enough room because the guard is high enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not overly high; it's just high enough. But either way, even if he doesn't make the shot right now, they still have 3 shots to Ryan's 2, and they're going to be set up quite nicely to lie 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I was even going to say, is it too late to tap that far yellow guard in and lie 2, 3, 4, but also have that to come in off to eliminate the blue. Tap that top yellow guard, on an angle. Top 12, top 8. What do you think?
I don't know. I can't really see the rock. I see now. Okay. It was kind of in. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Why not? Absolutely.
Top 12 over here. You could tap it right on top of the other yellow, and then it's a bang bang.
Nice shot.
Nice. Yeah.
So he made the most of that. That's a lovely shot. This is a tough situation for Ryan because he can't really do much with that top yellow rock without removing his back blue one and making things worse. So he's going to have to try and protect it and now give up a point for sure. I don't see, even with 2 rocks being left to play for Ryan, I don't know how he improves his lot in life here without taking a lot of risk, because Simon is lying, like we said, number 2, number 3, and number 4. So you've got to be really careful about removing your own rock here. You're not going to do anything drastic, that's for sure.
No, you can't play any hit.
No, you got to. This is about rock placement now to make sure that you protect your back blue one and you don't give Team Perry an opportunity to score more than 2.
And this is a right call. Corner freeze, but the inside corner.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's got to be precise. If he taps that at all, then that yellow can be used to sort of run in on their yellow and eliminate blue.
Well, he can certainly team, if this is not placed in the way of that same tap that they just played, then they can do it again. So that will promote their yellow. It will move the blue rock back another little bit. They might be lying 2 when they're finished. So this is a very important strategic shot for Ryan. It's all about the rock placement. The line is going to be detrimental to this one. The weight, you can get away with it if it's a little bit short.
Yeah,
you can get away with it if you even tap it a tiny bit, but you have to have the line right.
And this is where the sweepers need to know what plan B is. Mm-hmm. You're not always going to make plan A. So we just said it's okay if you're a little bit short, but do they know that?
We don't want to let this, they don't want to let this over curl either, because, it'd be very easy to come around this blue one a little bit too tight and get an over curl, and then it's not in the way of anything. I think it's a good shot.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was looking for. Now, can Team Perry come and do a double tap and lie 2? Perhaps.
I think Ryan would be delighted if they only get 2.
Yeah, I agree. So we still have 2 shots to 1, though. Team Perry has 2 opportunities here. That said, This is not without risk either, because you're going to tap this blue one, which is going to tap the yellow one. You're not throwing a whole lot of weight, so you might not split it open, but you could put it in such a position that that back blue one could be removed. We'll see what happens when the dust settles in this one, but I believe the call here is to do the double tap again and try and promote the yellow one that's at the top 4 into the button area and possibly lie 2 when he's finished.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll be interesting because the angles really matter here.
They sure do, but there's been some really nice shots made this end too.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's running a bit wide here, Laura. I'm not sure. Well, that didn't work out exactly how they had hoped. Unfortunately, it was a bit heavy, so it didn't curl. It didn't pick up as much curl as they wanted. I think he probably was pretty close to the weight he wanted to throw, but it just didn't pick up the curl because he threw a little extra.
Yeah.
So now Ryan has to decide, how do I further protect my back blue one? And I think given that Simon just played that tap, I might be inclined to block it if I can, not give him that shot again.
I'm still worried about that top yellow.
I'm sorry?
They're still worried about that top yellow guard to run that in somehow.
Yeah, and I don't really blame them. I think the one that's at the top 4 foot is the most dangerous rock. I think that's the one that, I mean, Simon's going to try and tap that again if he gets an opportunity. And he can do it 2 ways. So he can do it. This is the way that Ryan is going to try and block that shot, by putting one above the blue one. The blue one that's in the top 8. He's going to try and protect that from being bumped again. But the yellow shot, the yellow guard on the left-hand side is available to tap. Now, will it get the right angle to tap that yellow into scoring position? I'm not sure, but it is there. The other shot that's there is this blue run on the right-hand side, sort of a slash double.
That's
for 2.
Pretty.
It's not easy.
No.
But if you don't give the other team another shot,
for sure,
you almost like force them into greatness.
Yeah. Well, and this yellow guard that you said they could run in, that's the one I wanted to tap quite a while ago.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
Let's see if they try and use it.
Well, this yellow guard can be tapped for 3.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming right into the 4 foot with that one. So you're not trying to do a double tap on the top blue and yellow at all. You're just going to use it on the side that it's where the advantage is, which is to just hit your own on the 4 foot, tap it up. And there's no real risk here for Simon. He can just tap away because he's never removing that yellow rock off of the 4 foot. The only place it's going is on the blue behind it, or you're missing it. So I see this as a win-win, really, for Simon. Not a lot of pressure, not a lot of extra pressure. He's already lying 1, and he's not at risk of losing that point.
In fact, I'm not sure what they're talking about, except maybe what weight to throw.
Maybe. Looks like they're still all talking about the same shot.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't see a better one. Unless there's a way you can come in with an in-turn draw and tap this blue out. But that looks like it's way overburied to me, and you can't throw that kind of weight.
No.
It won't curl. Enough weight to move that blue off the back button is not going to curl that much, I don't think. I mean, it was pretty close the last time, and I think that because it was close, the shot that Simon missed, they got a good look at the line, and it wasn't curling. It was never curling enough to move that blue one. So,
and if you had to nudge it, maybe you try, but you have to move that out of the 4 foot.
You do. In order to score 2, you do, yeah. I like this call. I think this is the only shot really, and it's a decent. There's a decent chance of making 3 here. It's close. Oh, just a
Oh,
tick at the end there. I just lost the sweeping, unfortunately.
good.
So 1 yellow, and we're all tied up after the 5th end. We'll go into the 6th with McNeil Lamswood having last rock in the 6th, and a little bit of an advantage there to have last rock in 6, and then, more than likely last rock in 8 again. So they've got 2 ends to 1 here with a tie game. This is a good position for Ryan McNeil Lamswood to be in. So we'll give you an opportunity to top your glasses up, and we'll be right back. So welcome back, everyone. And you can see from the shots that have been played so far that Ryan and team have decided that they're going all out for their deuce. They've put their corner guard up and they've gone behind it. Team Perry wasn't so lucky with the shot that came to the back 12 foot. Would have ideally liked that a little bit shorter up in the 4 foot area, but they do have the guard in play, and they do have an opportunity to get one sunk behind it. Sunk behind it. Sunk. Anyway, behind it. Let's just say that. So while we're waiting, I'll give you an update on some of the scores. On sheet one, Team Skeins is ahead of Team Tipple now, 4-1. They're playing in the 6th. Team Tipple has Last Rock. On sheet 2, Team Greg Smith has taken a slight lead over Team Alex Smith. They're leading 3-1 in the 5th end. Alex Smith has Last Rock. Our game 2-2, as you know, with McNeil Lamswood with Last Rock in the 6th. On sheet 4, we have Team Hancock with a 4-2 lead over Team Simmons. They're playing in the 6th, and Team Simmons has Last Rock. And on sheet 5, we have Team Thomas and Team Turpin playing, and Team Turpin is up 4-1 after 5 ends. They're playing in the 6th with Thomas having Last Rock, and Nathan Young has turned things around. That team has turned things around for themselves, and they are now up 4-2 over Team Pettigrew in the 6th, and Team Pettigrew has Last Rock. So we're far from over here because the teams that have Last Rock do have an opportunity to tie up all of the games that are out there. All of them are very close. So we'll keep you posted as best we can, and we'll come back to our game.
And Cathy, as you said, McNeil Lamswood is making use of their corner guard, and it's not at all surprising because also, as you said, even end is really when you want to score. In fact, it's one of the rare times where you almost don't care if you get your forced to your 1, because ideally you score in 6, they score in 7, you score the winner in 8.
Exactly. Now, unfortunately, we've got a couple of blips on the radar going on here. Team Perry was a bit short on their draw to the 4 foot, but they were able to put up now 2 center guards. Those are still in play. Team McNeil Lamswood elected to ignore all of that, which they probably had to do anyway because of the number of rocks that have been played. But they did try to come around to corner guard, and they did get a little deep on that come around. So they've got 2 sitting in the back 12. Not perfect, but they are buried, which is nice. Ideally, they would have liked them to be a couple of feet higher in the house, but there you go. So now Team Perry is making a play, trying to hit this corner guard and get rid of it and see if he can get some action in the rings, but he wasn't lucky enough to stick that. They're happy to get rid of the corner guard, of course. It'll be interesting to see how this end unfolds now.
And while Team McNeil Lamswood replaces that corner guard, always want to recognize the sponsors. So Team Perry just explained to us that their list of sponsors include Beachy Cove Animal Hospital, TD Bank, Sobeys, Pepper's Oil, Denny's, DNP Contracting, Robotham Mackay and Marshall, and Arsenault Brothers.
Listen, that's a nice list of sponsors with some really great support for that young team. That's wonderful. I hope they get to use some of that sponsorship money and maybe travel to a young, another age group event. I think these guys are still in the under 21s, so maybe they'll get an opportunity to go to a junior spiel. We're not sure what their plans are at this point, but they've got some, they got some great support there. That's really good for them. I spoke to the Ryan McNeil Lamswood team before we came out as well, and they are sponsored by CIBC Wood Gundy, the Priddle and Shepherd Investments group, and they are very happy with that. They don't have plans to travel, but they are going to be looking to play in other spiels if they can. So I guess they're kind of hoping that there's something else going to happen here at our club. And if not, they may look at going somewhere in Halifax. We'll see for them. They don't have big travel plans this season, though. So Ryan's team attempted to put their corner guard back in play, which they kind of did.
That's not ideal.
It's a bit high. So there's an opportunity for Team Perry to get around that, I think, and remove some of these yellow or some of these blue rocks that are on the back 12. But you still have to be aware of the fact that that corner guard is kind of there. It's in your vision for sure. So instead of playing the wide intern hit, they've elected to play what looks to be an outturn come around the corner to try and take these rocks out of play by freezing them as opposed to just removing them. Tricky little shot here.
Cathy says intern because she's right-handed. For myself, as a left-hander, it would be an outturn. And a lot of people are confused by that. And essentially what it refers to is your elbow. So if your elbow comes in toward your body, then that's an intern. So obviously for a left-hander, it's the other direction. So basically breaks it down quite simply. If your elbow goes out from your body, it's an outturn.
Well, that didn't quite work out, unfortunately, for Team Perry. So Ryan is having to look now to see who might be lying number 2. They definitely have one in play. This back yellow one may be outcounting the other blue shot that Ryan has in play. So now he's trying to decide, do I need to do something about this back yellow one? Or...
from the overhead shot we were just given by our wonderful technologist. Is that what you're called? Technological person? Techie? Trevor, it looks like second yellow is second shot.
I think I'm of the mind that this play up at the top of the house is a better play for Brian. You know, he still has 4 rocks left to come, and there is time to deal with this back yellow one if you need to. But let's not forget that his goal here is to get 2 points. And he is lying 1, and he is shooting next. So he can still lie 2. You don't need to lie 3.
No.
Not yet. I think the placement of this next rock is more important than just, let's just have a whack at this yellow one in the back and lie 3. I don't think is wise. And he's, he's electing to play a come around draw on the left-hand side, which if you're a right-handed person, it's an outturn. And if you're a left-handed person, it's an intern.
I noticed your tone did not go unnoticed.
No, that's good. Get a little of my own back.
And Cathy, you said that he really wants to get 2 here. And we talked about, I think he's just not just as happy, but he really wants his 1 here. So that's why he's kind of scared of those center guards, because that gives Perry the opportunity to get their 1. And as we said, you really want to score in 6, whether it's 1 or 2, ideally 2. But it's really important to score in that even end, or the even end, especially as we're approaching the end of the game.
So Team Perry could have a go at trying to get a rock behind the 2 yellow center guards, put a little pressure on Team Lamswood, and really try and score here in the 6th end and take away the control of the last 2 ends from Team Ryan McNeil Lamswood. But they are focused very much on these 2 blue rocks that are over here. And I think their goal is instead of trying to steal, which, is a nice goal, but you can never guarantee it. They're just trying to force 1. And the best way to do that at this point, I think they've decided, is to freeze these blue rocks that are back here. How do they do that? Do they hit the outside one and roll in? Do they throw the draw that they just attempted, down the center to curl under, or I guess to curl outward and then under the corner guard? But looks like they're playing an outside in shot, but how much weight is it? Is it just a draw tap, or is it a hit and roll? I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're in trouble. Typically with this ice, it's a hit and roll, but it has been straighter out in the wing, so it might be a softer weight. As you don't want to throw too much weight here because you can't afford to roll out.
No, and you can roll out easier than you think.
Don't want to do that either.
No, they didn't want to do that. You're absolutely right. They're going to be forced. I think Team Perry is going to be forced to try and play something to the 4-foot now. But Ryan is looking at it now, and now that blue corner guard has been pushed a little bit toward the center, he thinks it's high enough that he can get around it and get around everything. I think he might have to be careful he doesn't leave this rock in a hole, but they seem to be convinced that they can get all the way into the 4-foot there. They're looking at lots of options. They can tap that blue rock that they just threw, which I like, and I think that leaves them in a better position than trying to come around this the high guard, the high blue guard. I don't know if you can get it all the way under the yellow ones, and I think leaving it in the corridor there between the blue and yellow guards is not good.
Absolutely.
So I like this tap a lot better.
In fact, I don't think there's really anything on that other side.
No, I think it's just going to leave it in the open, or you sit behind that corner guard, which again, it's so long, it's still considered to be open.
Looks pretty good line wise.
It does look great,
Did
doesn't
they have
it?
to sweep it so much because
it still broke really hard. It didn't. They weren't able to hold it. It's too bad because it had a decent amount of momentum in it, and it just lost all of it by ticking the top yellow instead.
But they're both useful.
Absolutely, they can still use it. They can try that shot again, and I think they've got a good chance of making it. So,
okay, so here's that high guard.
Yeah.
Let's see how they do with it.
And this is a strategically a difficult decision to make, but also a very important shot to make. Whatever they call, Simon really is back against the wall here. He's got to do something to change the momentum of this end. Right now it's looking to me like Ryan has got so many opportunities to lie more than 3, really.
And what if you hit the blue that was just tapped in on the R in the top 12? He just sort of knows that inside out.
I think he's in a good position to steal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he certainly could.
Because I think McNeil Lamswood would go around this long guard, and you'd always have that one you just put there to run in. Or if he doesn't make it, you'd have that one to tap up buried. A bit of a wobble on the kick out.
Oh, wow.
Very nice.
Oh, that's a good kick off of that double. Great shot.
And I think they saw that wasn't lucky, or he wouldn't have thrown.
No, he called it for sure. He definitely called it. So good for them. Good read on that, and to know how when two rocks are so close together, how they're going to react when you just chip one of them. That was excellent call, and that really did put them back in the driver's seat. They're line 1 and 2 now, and pressure back on McNeil Lamswood because he really has to score. So however he gets into this 4-foot area, he's got to make this shot.
Yeah. As you said, what a momentum shift.
Yeah, we said Simon had to make this shot, whatever he did, and he did. So good for him. Put big swing there in the momentum of this end.
Cathy, we've talked about sponsors. They recently announced that the Tim Hortons Briar is Tim Hortons no more.
Yeah.
It's now the Montana's Briar.
Yes, it is.
What do you think of that?
Well, I think it sounds a little strange because we're so used to listening to it be called the Tim Hortons Briar, but I also remember when it was the Labatt Briar, and I remember when it was a McDonald Briar. So
Right.
each time the sponsor changed over time, it's something for all of us to get used to. I think fundamentally the most important thing is that Curling Canada was able to secure another good sponsor for the Briar, which keeps it alive, keeps it on television, keeps us entertained, keeps the curlers in a great position, and you keep the tradition alive. I think that's the most important part. And I like Montana. I like Montana.
I
So
do too. I'm just curious.
I'm good.
with the logos that used to be in the ice. They'd say we'll put it on the Timmy's cup. Is it going to be like a slab of
A rib?
ribs?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously a good Canadian company there.
Yeah.
So they recognize the importance of curling.
Mhm.
I just think I'm going to eat more, because they're advertising.
Oh, maybe. I certainly have my share of coffee. So if that's the case, then I think we've just proven that that's very likely. I did see some friends, a bunch of friends over the last week from coast to coast posting their next meal at Montana's, and so curlers are already starting to give the business,
Right.
And welcome. I think mostly welcome Montana's to the venue and to the event, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And these are like some pretty high profile players I've seen posting, so it's great. I think it's fun, and it'll be fun to watch that evolve.
Great.
And to your point, I can't wait to see how this looks on the ice, because it's going to be a different color scheme now too. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, and as you said, kudos to Curling Canada. It probably, I mean, the budget for a Briar cannot be low.
No.
So for them to go
No.
out and make this
Yeah.
make this deal, I'm sure wasn't an easy situation.
No, I'm sure there's a lot of negotiation, and it was a long time coming. I mean, they did talk about this last year. They knew that Tim Hortons was going to be finishing up their sponsorship gig with them, and so I imagine this has been a year in the making. I mean, I don't know, but I'm thinking if we knew that Tim Hortons was leaving, then it's probably been a year in the making.
Yeah.
So we've seen some two shots here, Laura, come a little bit deep, trying to get around that corner guard out in the wide. This wide shot right out in the outside 12-foot, and I think both skips are thinking that it might be a bit fresh out there. Maybe I need a little extra. It's sort of it's a
maybe.
normal thing, I think, when you go out so wide, your brain is thinking that it's a longer shot for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, but it's not unusual to see people throw it a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
But now Ryan has got to make this shot and try and get himself back into a position to score here.
Looks like good weight.
It does, and he's got an opportunity. Great shot. Really good shot. They almost lost that at the end, eh? A little bit of a panic sweep, but good for him. He got his point, and to your point, when you started this end, you said they'd be happy to score because keep advantage of that last rock coming home in the eighth end. So we finished the sixth. It was a bit long, I think. It felt like it was, but score of 1 for Ryan McNeil Lamswood's team, and so they're up 3-2 after 7. We'll be taking Team Perry. Will have last rock going into the 7th, and we'll be right back. Yeah. So here we go with the seventh end. Team Perry and Braden Snow about to deliver their first rock. And while we're waiting for things to get started here, as predicted, some of those other games did get tied up again. So on sheet 1, we have Team Tipple, who got their 3 back and now are tied with Team Skeins. Team Skeins has last rock in the 7th end. Team Alex Smith and Team Greg Smith are also tied. So it's 3-3 there. And Team Greg Smith has last rock in the 6th end. And on our sheet, Team McNeil Lamswood picked up their point, and they're going into the 7th end. Team Perry has last rock, but Team McNeil Lamswood is up a point. So it's 3-2. And on sheet 4, Team Hancock was able to steal another. So it's 5-2 going into the 7th. And Team Simmons has last rock. Team Hancock is up 5-2, I should say. Team Simmons has last rock. On sheet 5, it's 4-2 for Turpin over Thomas. And this is the only one where you see a distinct advantage. They're in the 7th end, and the team that's up 2 also has last rock. So Team Turpin is up 2 with last rock going into the 7th end. And on our last sheet, sheet 6, Team Pettigrew got their 1 point. They're still down 1, and Team Young also has last rock. So Team Young up 1 with last rock in the 7th end. Back to our game.
It's been interesting, Cathy, because the center guard went up for McNeil Lamswood. It's quite long. I don't know if he had intentions of throwing a double guard or not. But then Perry was very adamant about getting the corner into the house. So that sends a message that Perry would love to blank the 7th and come home with hammer in the 8th.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if he can get there. But to your point, that center line guard is a bit long. I don't know what your preference is, Laura. Like if you're going to throw two center guards, do you throw the tight one first or do you throw the long one first? I don't know.
I think the long one personally, because the tight one, it's so easy. Well, again, with the rule change, it's a little different. The tight one, it was so easy to just tap it into the house split. But again, if that tight one is touching the center line, all of a sudden you can't do that,
right? So I think maybe the tight one is the better one because if you only end up with one guard, you don't want it to be the long one, right?
That's right. And the other dilemma here is, the age-old question: would you rather be down 1 point but have hammer coming home, or would you rather be up 1 point without hammer coming home? And different teams have different philosophies on that. There's different stats, but I'm not a big fan of stats because they don't account for who's playing the game. So, you can talk about stats among high-level teams. You can talk about stats within a certain Bonspiel. You can talk about stats with out-of-country teams. I don't take a lot of stake in what the stats say. You really want to have an idea of what your team is comfortable with.
Oh, I think you need to know what your team is good at, and I think your stats are important, but I kind of agree with you. Whatever other teams are doing is really not that important, although it does give you an idea of the probability of something happening, and I think that's where teams go with their analytics and that kind of thing. I think it is a general agreement that down 1 with last rock is a good place to be because a 2-ender is doable. I don't know. I never liked it unless I was up about 4, so it doesn't matter what happens out there as far as I'm concerned. I don't like it unless I'm comfortable, and comfortable in the 8th end is where I want to be.
Right. Sitting behind the glass, buying the other team a drink.
There you go. That's perfect.
Talking about stats in general, I haven't been a great fan. They always pop up stats, on TV, and I don't know if they do a heart chart anymore. Probably not, but it was a newspaper that used to go out at the Scotties, and there'd always be the stats about who played what percentage, and it never took into account, whether it was overswept or whether the broom was in the right place or, what was communicated, if the sweepers told them the right way to throw. It was just simply what was the end result of the shot. So I honestly took very, very little stake in stats and never even bothered to look at them because I thought they were useless.
Yeah. And, I think they're very They're very cut and dry. They try to make them as cut and dry, to make them as consistent with every player as they can, but there isn't a lot of margin for certain types of shots that don't fit in a pigeonhole, you know? And sometimes if you hit and roll out, it's a 4 out of 4. Sometimes if you hit and roll out, it's a 2 out of 4. You know, sometimes it can be a 3 out of 4, depending on the situation. So it's not a cut and dried thing to say you hit and rolled out, it's only a 2-pointer. You know, and that's too bad then, because I don't think it's fair to the player. So I think you're right. And I think when I say stats, I think I mean more analytics. And this is not what someone's percentage of shooting is. It's more of how many times have teams won a game when they've been down one with last rock? How many times have they, outright won or lost or tied or whatever? And I think that those statistics say teams that have last rock coming home and are only down 1 point generally win. I don't think the margin is that much higher, but it is slightly higher. And so there's where most teams would want to be.
Agreed.
Just improves their odds just a little bit.
But those are answers you need basically before you start the season or shortly after. This is not a conversation you should have between ends.
No, I agree. And I think most teams these days with good coaches will talk about that, and they will say, where do we want to be? How do we want to get there? What's the job now? This is the fifth end. How do we want to make sure that we have last rock in the eighth? Do we need to blank? Do we need to try hard to blank now? Should we try and steal? Is stealing a good idea now? Is it going to fool up that probability? And I think all of those things are things you need to discuss. And where do you as a team feel the most comfortable?
And be on the same page. Again, something I was kind of famous for was moseying on down. And, Heather, and again, most of my experience with Heather, but I've played with other skips as well. And throwing my 2 cents in, and my comfort level might have been to blank. And, the skips was like, no, I really want to take one here. So it's really important that all teammates are on the same page, because the minute you plant another seed, even all of a sudden it throws off the conviction that you're calling with.
Yeah, this is what we wanted to do. This is what we planned, and now you're throwing out another option. It's too late for that. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I think it's really important, like you said, and like we're saying, teams need to have that discussion before the eventuality, or I said in an eventuality. Don't have it at the time that it's happening. You have already had this many times before. This is what we're going to do if this happens. This is what we're going to do if this happens. If right. This, then this. Always having those discussions during practice time, after the game. This is team debriefing information that needs to be discussed. We were all on the same page. This is a common question. I'm sure a coach would say. So everyone was happy with the plan. We tried the plan. We didn't execute the plan. Okay, that's fine. But we had the plan. We played the plan. We didn't make the shot. Nothing you can do about that. But you played the plan. You knew what it was. Everyone was in agreement. Good for you guys. Perfect. That is, that's a goal, and it's accomplished. So it's a good thing to take away, even if you don't win.
Right. And we've missed a little bit about what's gone on here, but as I said at the beginning, Team Perry really wanted their rock into the rings, and that was a message that they wanted to blank, and so far it has been relatively wide open. Having said that, now we've got a rock buried, so that does change things.
Yes, it does. It is going to force Team Perry's hand a little bit, I think. They will maybe try a run back, and if they don't get it, they'll peel. This is that's a pretty good shot to play, because I don't think their opportunity to score 2 is there. They could come around both of these rocks. They could lie one and put some pressure on Ryan, but there's no guarantee that Ryan will miss his last rock. So the chance of 2 is not that great. So I like the idea of playing this shot. Try the run back. If you make it, you might get your 2. If you don't, you're definitely going to peel.
Right. And if somebody wants a third commentary, just listen a little louder because Eugene Trickett is near our curtain, and you can probably hear him better than us.
Mm. It's always fun to sit behind the glass with Eugene. He's willing to have an argument about any rock that's played. And if you're the type that likes to do that, it's a bit of fun.
If
you're the type that yes, exactly. This is looking like a good shot here. Laura, he may just make, nope, didn't get it. But he did move it out of the way. So now we'll see there you go. You can look and see what Ryan is going to do. He's going to put some pressure on by line 2. He's going to force Team Perry to take his point. So he wants to make sure that he gets the separation that he's talking about. And you can see there, the boys are talking about making sure they don't line up a double. Although, even if they do, it's likely still going to force one. So I wouldn't be too worked up about that if I was them. I think it's important to lie 2 here and put some pressure on Team Perry. I think line 2, wherever they are, even if there is a double, it's a hard double to hit both of them and roll out.
Yeah. Where's the perfect place to lie second thought?
Honestly, I would say on the A and outstanding. Because then the double, there's no rollout. You know, you got to make the double in order to get your point, or a hit and roll at least to get your point. But there's no rollout. You come a little bit deeper, and you can come off the side one and hit the back one and roll up and out. So the blank is on. So I would not do that. I would actually line up this double for one.
And any deeper or higher, it makes this one easier.
Mm-hmm.
Higher, he's got a relatively easy draw for his one, and deeper, he probably got a soft kind of hit, flop in, tap back.
Yeah.
Whereas if this is on the A, as you said, the double and blank is tough, but so is scoring your one.
Well, this is not light.
No. Well, he wanted it the whole end, so let's see if he can make the blank.
Well, unfortunately for Ryan, and not to make things make things worse or be critical, but that unfortunately for him was worst case scenario, and he'll be wanting to bang his head against the wall a little bit. I think when he gets in, he won't like that happened, but a little of adrenaline, I think maybe an opportunity to put some pressure on Team Perry, thinking that it was a fairly simple shot and maybe didn't give it the time he needed to throw it well. Either way, this is no gimme. A blank is never a gimme. So we'll see how this goes for Team Perry.
How many blanks have you seen plugged? And when we say plugged,
in my world, many.
And we just thought we'd mention it because we saw it coming.
It's hard. It is hard. It's a shot you need to practice. And early in the year, they're a little tentative. They're not exactly sure the broom's in the right place. And when you're trying to blank, you got to know that the broom's in the right place, and you got to throw it. And it's unfortunate. Anyway, two unfortunate shots to end that end, but it's not the end of the world. It is tied up coming home, and McNeil Lamswood's team will have last rock, and we will be right back. Yeah, so we'll just give you a quick update of what's going on all the sheets. Team Skeins on sheet 1 is now up 6-4 coming home. And Team Tipple has last rock. Team Greg Smith is up 4-3 coming home. Team Alex Smith has last rock. Our game is tied, and Ryan McNeil Lamswood's team has last rock. On sheet 4, Team Simmons has got their 2 back, so they're down 5-4 now, but Team Hancock has last rock coming home, and they're up 1. Team Thomas is playing Team Turpin on sheet 5. That score is still 4-2 for Turpin. They're still in the 7th. And Team Pettigrew is playing Team Young. Team Young is up 5-3. And Team Pettigrew has last rock coming home. So as those games finish up, we'll keep you posted. And right now we have
Confusion. So Team Perry threw the long guard, which was expected. He's got a steal.
Mm-hmm.
I am really surprised that McNeil Lamswood elected to go around, which essentially has given them another guard. It's a great fully buried come around, but it's closing down his scoring zone. And then so now Perry has 3 guards. Personally, I would have gone to the wing. Don't need a guard certainly, but just to the wing, it might be your hang around point if you have to pick something out.
So sorry about that, guys. We just lost you there for a minute, and we have there we go. So not a lot has changed since we left. So we're gonna say some shots didn't work out. So we still have the 2 guards up front. The McNeil Lamswood Rock in the top 8, and Team Perry is about to shoot. So they've got an opportunity now. Oh, there we go. There is another rock in play. Just was hidden
toward the center. Which, again, I mean, obviously he's trying to go aggressive, but I would personally not be doing.
And it might be in his head. He's trying to make sure that he's the first one on the button, and not give Team Perry an opportunity to get there. But I kind of agree. I don't know if I would have done what he did. So kudos to Team Perry, because both of their center guards ended up biting the line, which meant there was nothing that Team McNeil Lamswood could do with it. So he's hit one of the rocks, which, again, I'm not sure I would have done that either, but I don't mind it with the 2 yellow guards out front. He's not changed his chances of getting a steal here in any way.
And with McNeil Lamswood calling, as you said, Cathy, maybe he's trying to beat Perry in, but he's put so much pressure on his own team to be perfect. If they're short, they're in the situation they're in now, and it's essentially a 3rd guard. If they're either bit deep, and then Perry locks one on there, they don't even have a shot.
No, I agree. Now, I do like the call that he's indicating to hit the yellow rock that's in the top 8 and roll toward the outside. I like that idea to get a rock off the 4-foot area out of the way. He doesn't need extra points. I mean, someone's going to score here, so someone's going to win. You don't need any more than one, so you don't need to worry about it. Now he's looking at the guards. So I like this call. The guards are what's going to hurt him in the end, right? You got to have a path to the 4-foot, and right now he doesn't have a clear path.
Exactly.
I like the single peel here too, Laura. I think going for the double peel where those rocks were so nicely placed in such a far distance from each other. You try and do that double peel and you still end up leaving another rock in play. And oftentimes you leave it in the path to the 4-foot.
Yeah.
And you don't need to do that. So when you're playing these double peels, it's important to know where is your shooter going to end up. And the last place in the 8th end, when you need to be able to draw to the 4-foot, the last place you want that shooter is in that pathway. So make sure whatever it is you play is not going to happen there.
Great. I think a good rule of thumb is only play the double peel when you have to play the double peel because it's a harder shot.
Oh, totally. So, in an attempt to replace the guard, they've left a fairly simple double. You may have to leave a rock in play. I'd still have a whack at it, I think. You have to be careful how you ricochet off of this yellow rock over here in the top 8 foot, though. These are set up to go in that direction, and you could end up moving something to the 4 foot inadvertently. So you have to be really careful how you play this.
That's right. At least, though, even if you move something into the 4 foot, there's no guards up. So it's all the play is into the house then.
Right. So we do have a couple of finals to talk about. The first one I will tell you is that I'm not certain of the score, but I do know that Team Young has beaten Team Pettigrew. So that will put Team Young at 3-0. Going into tomorrow, a nice place to be. We're going to just check the Hancock-Simmons game is also over, and I am not aware yet of who won, but we will find out and get right back to you. So this is a pretty hard hit coming at us here, Laura. He's playing a lot of weight, so he's trying to move a lot of granite.
He's got it, yeah.
And there you go. See what I was talking about. You got to really be careful about how that ricochets off of there, because now you put Team Perry in an opportunity. They're in a position now where they're lying number 1 instead of number 2, and they could effectively just guard it and just, cross their fingers at this point. May not get a whole lot better for them, but I think you got to put a guard up for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, do you have to guard the yellow yet? Maybe not. You just need a guard.
Yeah. In fact, this is a good call.
Yeah.
Because that blue is useful for Ryan.
Yes.
He could just tap it up or hit the outside of it and get rid of the yellow. So that kind of want to take that option away from him.
Yeah, I think so. This is a smart call by a young team to recognize that a guard is important. The line is not critical. Let's put it in the general vicinity of the center line. See if we can improve our odds on stealing a point here. They have a slight advantage in that they're already lying shot. I really do hope that Ryan and team just peel it off, but we'll see.
I think he's calling it already.
At some point in the next couple of rocks, Team Perry will have to decide what do they do? Do they hit to lie 2 and try and put some pressure on on Ryan, or do they guard their rock in the 4 foot? Oh, this is going to hurt. That's unfortunate. That's going to leave a mark, as they say. A little bit wide, I think. Maybe Laura didn't quite get it. Maybe a little adrenaline.
Yeah,
too much weight. I'm not sure, but a combination of all of that. And unfortunately for him, he also removed his rock. So advantage Team Perry all of a sudden.
Yeah. We've all done it, and it seems to happen near the end of the game.
So a little bit of discussion going on here. I think I like the I think I like coming around the center. I don't mind if it's Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I don't mind that at all. I actually think also it's not bad to be dead behind it either. It's a pretty good shot. They're like where they're indicating their top 8.
Yeah.
Directly behind the center guard is a good shot too. Not much that McNeil Lamswood can do with that in terms of he can hit this open yellow one, but it is of no advantage to him to do so if they get it buried behind the center guard. So this is a good call.
Yeah, and I do like this out turn better than the in turn. Just because the in turn, if it does hang straight, you're leaving you're grouping them together and leaving a really easy double.
So a little bit lower pressure level here for Team Perry in that this does not have to be exact. Of course, if it is exact, it's remarkable and it's going to put them in a really good position. But it doesn't have to be exact. If they remember, as the thrower here, what's my tolerance? Where do I go with this? You don't want to be long. Ultimately, you can't be long. You gotta remember that. If it's not placed perfectly behind the guard, it's not the end of the world. It's still in play. You're still either lying to or you have two guards. Yeah. So those are the things that you think about. That's where you go in your head.
They're just watching this.
They are. It's a bit wide, which probably means it's a bit heavy. Buried, but a total advantage to McNeil Lamswood now because you've kind of let him off the hook.
Again, probably a bit of adrenaline because otherwise it's been a really well played game and they haven't had misses.
Don't know if I like this call. I don't know what I like, but I don't know if I like this call.
Well, yeah, it leaves if you make the double.
This rock is not the threat, though. The threat is still the center guard.
Yeah.
The center guard is allowing Team Perry to draw behind it again.
That's true.
So you got to make an inside roll here in order to take that away if this is the shot you're playing. You're not playing this double.
Yeah.
You're playing an inside hit and roll.
Well, they're playing the double. But
they are, but this is not the rock to play. That's not the shot to play.
Definitely not.
No, absolutely not. And ultimately, that, even if it was made, is of no value because the center guard is still there, and that's what Team Perry's going to do. They're never hitting this lone blue rock over here.
Right.
If it was by itself, it was never going to be hit. They were still going to use that center guard. So, unfortunately for Ryan and his team, no one recognized that for 6 rocks, we've been peeling the front at every opportunity we got, and then we just forgot and we didn't do it. It's too bad, really.
When I played with your oldest, Jenny used to, her mantra was, "Heels, no steals."
Oh, yeah.
And,
very good.
Sometimes we get lost in our own heads, and she would just mosey down or, catch one of us, just come and say, "Heels, no steals." It kept it really simple. Because sometimes you complicate the game. You just need someone to make it simple.
For sure. So it is advantage Team Perry again here now. We've got a little bit of back and forth going on. But there's also no question. There's still, 4 rocks coming at us. So a lot can happen. But this does give Simon a really good opportunity to put some pressure on Ryan now.
They're off and on. Looks a bit deep to me, but they're...
Yes, it does.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good, yeah. Not buried fully, but now Ryan has a what does he do? That is not buried fully. So you play it out and you ask yourself, if I peel the front, what is Simon going to do? Is Simon going to come and freeze lie 3? Do I need to hit this? Is he going to put up another guard? So it's a little bit of guesswork, right? A little bit of guesswork. It's certainly advantage to Team Perry at this point.
Yeah.
Even though that wasn't perfect, it's going to give Ryan and his team a lot to talk about and a lot to think about. So they've decided reasonably quickly, actually, that they need to just do this, get this off the button.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree, because I don't think there's a win otherwise. If they peel, Simon can put a better guard on it, and then Ryan has to make that draw to the button. Or, like I said, he comes and he freezes his own, and then how is he scoring? How is Ryan going to score? It's not going to be easy. I
Well,
think
if he
this
peels,
is good.
he's hoping for a miss.
Yeah.
And he could get a miss and win the game.
Could.
But you're right.
This puts him back in the driver's seat, I think. So the update for you is that Team Edge, which is also Team Hancock, they did beat Team Simmons. So they have improved their record to 1-2, and Team Simmons drops to 2-1. Things are getting interesting.
This is wide and heavy. So you'll see the outside sweeper try and carve this in.
So he was reasonably successful, and he certainly got his. He certainly did get shot rock out of it, which is step one. That's good. Yeah. And it looks like Team Perry has elected to hit this and just lie to. Maybe hit and roll under.
Yeah, with this ice, I don't think
it's not a huge amount of weight, is it? And there is a situation over here, Laura, where the last few rocks that have come down have really hung out. Yeah. So there's not a lot of curl. So he's obviously going to take the weight down a little bit.
Yeah, Ryan shot just before it, exactly.
Yep.
And it wasn't big weight. I said it was heavy, but it only tapped the rock to the back 12. So it's definitely a tricky shot. Ryan's also got that blue, that far blue double, no matter where this Perry shot ends up. That'll always be there.
Yes, exactly.
Which I think I said at the beginning of the end that could be his in-off double.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I'm going to have to rewind, but I think.
So once again, it is hanging a little bit, Laura, because you can see the outside sweeper is trying to carve it in. I think he will come in contact with it. What he's going to do with it, I don't know.
Yeah.
So he has shot rock.
And he's kind of lucky because
he also drove that over behind his shot rock, which is not too bad. But it's an open hit for Ryan to win the game. He doesn't need to stick because he's lying number 1 and 2, I think. So he's going to want to make sure basically he hits the inside of this.
This is about where Perry's blank was.
Oh, did he? That's great. So another update. We had a bit of an upset on sheet 5. Dave Thomas from Port aux Basques was down 2, coming home without last rock, but he managed to win the game. So he's a happy guy. He's up 2-1 now in games, and unfortunately for Team Turpin, they dropped to 0-3.
Final rock of the game coming down.
Coming down with some speed.
Off and on.
You kind of like it. You like it when you're watching a game and your sweepers are just dusting. So there you go. Good for him. Yeah. A big win for Ryan McNeil Lamswood. That takes them to 3-0, and it drops Team Perry to 1-2 in the standings.
That was an exciting game.
Yeah, it was an exciting game. And we have it on another update for you on sheet number 1. Team Skanes was able to hold their lead against Team Tipple. So they also improved their record to 3-0. So they will stay at the top of the standings, and Team Tipple will drop to 0-3. So right now we've with the teams that were at 2-0 at the beginning of this game, Team Simmons has dropped off to 2-1. Team McNeil Lamswood stays at 3-0. Team Skanes is also at 3-0, and Team Nathan Young is also at 3-0. So we do only have 3 teams now without a loss. There will be 6 teams that will get to the playoffs on Sunday. So tomorrow will be some exciting games that will start to move people around, different placements here and there. We're going to leave you now. And we will be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Here at the REMAX Center. And tomorrow's commentators Glenn Goss and John Barron will be doing the commentating tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. So thanks very much for joining us, and we will see you again tomorrow.